Today, Forum TV has the pleasure of interviewing a renowned Canadian journalist, investigative journalist of Ukrainian descent, Victor Malarek. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Since we are interviewing during Bloor West Village Ukrainian Festival, do you want to say a couple of words about your involvement? I know that you try to attend every year.
I probably attended 95%. I was a parade marshal one year, and I just think it's really an incredible, well-organized machine. I mean, you can't be more proud of being Ukrainian than being on this street for the Bloor West Ukrainian Festival. I just love it.
And I know that this year you are speaking at the Speaker's Corner. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit more about what your speech is going to be about?
I'm going to be talking about the kidnapped children of Ukraine and how the Russians and Putin have targeted these children and what they're doing to them. And everything from completely stealing them and changing their identities of babies and toddlers to taking the older kids and Russifying them, indoctrinating them, brainwashing them into becoming Russians, and you must forget about ever being Ukrainian. What they're doing is a war crime and a crime against humanity, and they're being held accountable with the International Criminal Court. However, you first got to catch them and bring them to the International Criminal Court before you can do anything about it. But the world knows and should know that these people are being stolen, that they are being kidnapped, that they're being abducted, and there's nothing worse than stealing someone's children.
I think this is a classic Victor Malarek giving the voice to the voiceless. So I think the project that you're currently working on also talks about abducted children of Ukraine.
Yeah, one of the things that I've done now since I've left the active world of journalism is taken a lot of my experiences and put them into fiction books, because my first 6 were nonfiction and were really tightly written. You have to be very careful with the facts. But now I could take a character by the name of Matt Kozar, who happens to be a young version of some crazy reporter that I happen to know in my head. And I've written a couple of books with him. He sort of follows a pattern. And now the next one is going to be a really interesting one. It's called Stolen. And it's going to deal with a baby being stolen while the mother has been arrested by the Russians in Kherson. It's a very powerful book, you know, like when you see what the woman goes through and what Matt Kozar goes through trying to find. But he also, and I won't tell you the big one, he comes across an incredible find in terms of the world of journalism. It's like a major international scoop, and he's going to break it. And the final break is not going to happen in Kiev. It's going to happen here in Toronto.
Oh, we've got the exclusive from Victor Malarek on the book that's coming out. I do want to go and discuss with you the initiative that is spearheaded by the Government of Canada and the Government of Ukraine, which is the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children. How effective do you think they have been, given the situation and given that, you know, it's good to have the sentiment, but it's very different to actually act on it?
Yeah, and see, that's the reality when governments get together and they say, we're going to do this, but you have a real problem. How are you going to do this? And that's the issue here. They can't get the children back because Putin and his children's rights commissioner, Maria Lvova-Belova, will not cooperate. They have taken those, for example, babies and toddlers. They've changed their names. They've changed their date of birth. You don't know who they are. They were stolen out of orphanages and they've disappeared. Even if you find them 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, they have no concept, no idea of being Ukrainian. How do you bring them back, and what are you going to deal? How are you going to deal with them? Those are the main issue. But the issue for all of these initiatives is pie in the sky until Putin is brought to justice, or when Ukraine wins the war and kicks these people out, and then to try to get those children back. That's going to be the difficulty. Where are they? Have their names been changed? Are they in Siberia? Are they, in the Ural Mountains? Where are they? It's going to be one heck of a trial because the documentation will probably be burned.
I know that you like to give practical advice. You're a practical kind of person. So on a practical level, what can individuals in Canada, what can Canadians do about this? Is there a recipe from you on what to do?
Yeah, I mean, the recipe is hard to find. I mean, I want people to understand that this is happening, that they should speak to their MPs, that they should keep hollering about it. Maybe go to the various media outlets and say, look, you got to keep telling people about it. Not like a one-off, and by the way, this and this and this is happening. Oh, and they're stealing children. No, stealing children, kidnapping children, Russifying, indoctrinating, brainwashing children is a crime. Those children should never have been taken. The Russian government, the Kremlin and Putin understand the international human rights law, humanitarian law. They have signed it, and you cannot take children or any people out of Ukraine. You have to give them a corridor into their own country. And if you can't give them a corridor, which they won't, you take them to a third country. And you know, when we talk about this invasion, they have been indoctrinating and Russifying children since they took over Donetsk and Lugansk, and taking them by the hundreds of thousands into schools and making them forget ever about being Ukrainian, because they rewrite history according to what Putin thinks history is, and also erasing the history and the very fact that you are Ukrainian, that you have Ukrainian blood in you.
You've touched upon an interesting point here about talking to the media. So I just want to double click with you on that. How would you describe the current media situation in the world when it comes to Ukraine and when it comes to showcasing what's really happening in Ukraine? We're hearing a lot about Ukraine fatigue. So I also want to ask, like, is this a real thing? Is this something that you believe in? And what can journalists do better? International journalists, I'm talking about big outlets, big respected outlets. What can they do to really spread the message? Because many people I talk to say that they are not receiving enough news about Ukraine. So they don't know if the war has ended, if Ukraine lost territories or regained its territories. So what do you make of it?
The media is a very strange animal, particularly south of the border. They are very America-centric. Whatever is happening, if it's even sort of like middle news and there's big news out of Ukraine, they don't really cover it that well. They do cover, but they don't challenge enough. They don't challenge Trump. They don't challenge this piece of idiotic, this idiot who's the foreign minister for the United States and the vice president, who make these outlandish statements, and they have to be challenged, continually challenged, not to just simply take their answers and say, well, we shouldn't arm Ukraine, we shouldn't get involved. Yeah, and make enemies with your biggest partners in NATO, to make enemies out of Canadians who basically used to be the best friends of the United States. I think the American media has failed in large part, unless there's this massive drone attack and it happens to be quiet news that day. But what really bothers me is these experts who pop up all the time. And I'm wondering, how are you an expert sitting in London? Or how are you an expert sitting in Washington or Ottawa or whatever capital? Go to the front. I've been to the front in different places over my years in journalism to report from the front. Matt Kozar in the book, Putin's Assassin, goes to Bucha. He fights to go and report on these kinds of things. I had to fight to do the doctors who left from Toronto and Ontario and Canada to go and work and operate on wounded soldiers. But whoa, that made a big splash here. You know, it won a Canada Screen Award, but I had to argue and fight to get the damn thing done. And that's what journalists have to do as well. If you believe in a cause, if you believe in an issue, you have to push until they give, you know?
Absolutely. What would you like to wish Ukrainians who came to the Bloor West Village Ukrainian Festival? What is the message that you would like to leave them with? I know it's very difficult times in Ukraine, of course. It's one of the most challenging periods of Ukrainian history, of course. And we are celebrating Ukrainian heritage here and Ukrainian traditions and culture. What is the importance and the significance of this?
For me, the DNA of Ukraine is in all of us. Even if you happen to have 40%, 30%, 10%, that's going to dominate. That's what I always tell people. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what the soldiers are doing. You know, when you say Slava Ukraini, mean it and feel it. And when I write on my Facebook or anywhere else, I always say, I stand for Ukraine right away. And I'm proud of Zelensky, and I'm proud of what these people are trying to do to defend the right of Ukraine and Ukrainians to exist. And it's important. We can't give up. I'll never give up.
Thank you. Today's guest was Victor Malarek. Thank you very much, Victor, for your time.
Thank you.